Hello all and welcome to the Montana Chamber of Commerce's Capital Connection. I'm Sheridan Hoyer. I'm the Government Relations Specialist here at the Montana Chamber of Commerce. I think it's Legislative Day 57 or somewhere around there, at least this week. And it's our second week back from Transmittal, and I'm not sure where March went. I could have sworn it was just February, but things are still rocking and rolling here in this capital city. This last week, I kind of thought we would ease back in after transmittal break, but that was absolutely not the case. Things hit the ground running. We had quite a few workers' comp bills last week. Things moved right along. And then the House Bill 231 with the governor's property tax task force bill. It's good and complicated, is kind of leading the charge on the property tax front. There's lots of movement there, and we can get into that, but great big bill. We did oppose it because we don't think that the bifurcated tax rate that it creates is a good policy road to go down for commercial property taxes. And there's another element of opposition in there, but now I can't remembering it. But primarily on that bifurcated tax rate was our concern there. So we did oppose it. We understand that property tax is one of the big issues this session and something will be done, but we aren't a fan of that particular version. And a little bit on critical infrastructure protections last week, some more things on MEPA and the energy natural resources side, some bills on that moving through the alternate house, whether they were in this House or the Senate, they've swapped it out with transmittal. And I got to go in on a bill that would provide funding for middle school career and technical education. That's moving right along over in the Senate side, and I think that will go well. There was Senate Bill 90 is the bill that we did support on property tax relief with that was Carl Glimm's bill. I think even he was a little bit surprised. He walked into the committee hearing and he said, this bill is kind of taking it on a life of its own. And so initially it took lodging tax revenue, all of it, and put it directly towards property tax relief. We did oppose it in the Senate because that would decimate the tourism and promotion budgets of the Department of Commerce. And we get a lot of tourists and we need to make sure those are continuing to be funded. However, that was amended and that portion got to remain in the Department of Commerce's budget. So the remaining, I think 4%, don't quote me on that, would be distributed to property tax relief. And we did support that. Representative or Senator Glimm did mention that it is one of the simpler tax bills this session. So I think that's helping in his favor. And then on the child care front, House Bill 456 and 457 were heard on the floor last week. Those are both Representative Carlin's bills, and they made changes to the Best Beginnings subsidy program. So that's a cost share program with federal funds and some state funds that, depending on the number of folks in your family and your income, depends on how much you pay for childcare, and that additional help goes directly to providers rather than going through the family to the provider. 456 was passed, and that one would provide that scholarship subsidy to child care workers. And it will be heard this afternoon in House Appropriations, so I'll be going in on that. 457 had the higher appropriation amount, and there was quite a bit of discussion on the floor about precisely what the role of government is in this space, and a lot of points in that discussion about how businesses should be part of the solution and they should provide daycare, or they should provide daycare benefits or childcare benefits in some way. And that bill did not pass the floor, so 457 is currently dead. It might be resuscitated by being reconsidered on the floor, but I doubt it. It was a 55-44 vote. However, on Thursday this week, we have Senate Bill 321 up. Josh Kastmeyer is carrying it, and that would create a child tax credit package. And so that creates $1,200 to parents who have a child under the age of 5 to put towards childcare, whatever they think that looks like and whatever was right for them. And then a child care worker tax credit, so $1,600 for child care workers who are employed at least over 20 hours a week and over more than 6 months out of the year. And then as well as a $5,000 tax credit for businesses who are supporting dependent care in some way. And there's more details on that bill, and it has a really hefty fiscal note because those are our currently all refundable tax credits. But we're going in shooting for the stars and seeing what we can get out. And I think especially that's where the chamber fits in on that final business supported dependent care tax credit. We've done some work with the US Chamber, and that seems like a way to incentivize businesses to be part of the solution. And so maybe that might help with some of the concerns we heard on the House floor last week. So if you're at all interested in that, please let me know. I'm working on an action alert to send to local chambers and our membership in the newsletter tomorrow, but I'll keep you posted on that. Again, that is being heard on Thursday. Nope. Yes. Hold on. That's being heard on, Thursday morning. I was right. I just didn't highlight it. We've got, so a lot of our tort reforms are moving. Again, energy, natural resources. There's some interesting bills on E-Verify this week. If you have any thoughts on that, please let us know. House Bill 226 is the one we're kind of rallying behind. We did not engage in it in the House formally, but it would mean that employers had to have, it just says provide for a legal employment and government accountability law. That's House Bill 226. Representative Courtney Sprunger is carrying it. It's currently in Senate Business and Labor on Thursday this week. And that means that you have to have an I-9 or an E-Verify for your employees. We think you should employ folks who are legally allowed to work here. We're not arguing that, but that puts enforcement in the Department of Labor and Industry, whereas Senate Bill 329 requires employers to use E-Verify and makes it gives the enforceability in the Department of Justice, so makes it a criminal case. And again, you should be employing folks legally, but even the Department of Justice, we heard, didn't really want that enforcement capacity. And so we'll see what that looks like, but we will be opposing Senate Bill 329 also on Thursday. And there's some talk about, we can talk more about some of the constitutional amendments on sales tax after we stop recording here. But then the governor's version of business equipment tax exemption. So I say the governor's version, his staff is supporting Senate Bill 322 and 323. Those are also both carried by Josh Kastmeyer. Increasing the business equipment tax exemption is his version. There's a couple other versions out there of that business equipment tax change. One of those, I think, is House Bill 844, was heard this morning. Mike Vinton is carrying that in the House, and we will be supporting that. And then 323 revised it, would lower the individual income tax rate and the earned income credit on Friday. And we are supporting that as well, but we'll see what happens. We could see some additional, I don't know all the details on the whole tax thing. It's a good and complicated system, and we'll see what ends up there. But House Bill 155 is the Democrat alternative to House Bill 231, that property tax bill I mentioned last week, that was heard last week. And so Mark Thane is carrying that one, and it also creates that bifurcated tax rate. So we'll be opposing it for that same reason. We understand that property tax, something needs to happen, but we're still kind of feeling the waters as to just exactly what that is. I have this full list of big tax. It's a big tax week. The media film tax credit is this week, if you care about that. Some other interesting details. But at that, I think that I'll wrap up with the basics of what we've been taking a look at in the last week or so. Again, all of our things are up on the website if you're looking at the exact bill list that we are supporting, opposing, monitoring, and some of our priority bills.